They called him Hitler, racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, illegitimate, deplorable, garbage. But tonight, we just call him 47.
His campaign spewed a lot of racism, misogyny, xenophobia, but voters seem to overlook all of that.
But it's not just misogyny from white men. It's misogyny from Hispanic men. It's misogyny from black men.
It doesn't even matter. He's now the president. I'm still not going to say his name. That's not going to change.
You know, Donald Trump campaign is saying he's going to lower the price of bacon. The president of the United States has nothing to do with the price of bacon.
Elon Musk, who is a disinformation propagandist, have a direct line to the Oval Office.
Well, hello, America, and welcome to our Wednesday night special. Tonight, we have gathered, all of us are on 3 hours of sleep or less, so I want to introduce the panel that I have with us tonight. We're just going to be commenting on some of the things that have happened in the last few hours and 24 hours. We have Stu Burguiere, the executive producer of the radio program. Liz Wheeler is with us. Jill Savage is also with us. Jill, I want to start with you because you are probably in the most interesting room in the world, at least the most talked about room in the world in the last 24 hours. You just got back from the president's celebration.
Yeah, I was at Trump headquarters last night, and I literally just got off the plane and came straight here. So we are fresh off, like you say, 3 hours of sleep. But again, it was the most interesting room in the entire world last night. There were people from all over the world there, and the vibes there, right? This is Kamala Harris's word that she wanted to insert into the campaign, and the vibes there were incredible. People, I think the words that kept coming up were cautiously optimistic, right? Anybody that you would talk to, they're like, well, I think we're going to win, but what are they going to try and do, right? Because we all know it's in our nervous system now, right? It's like in our bodies, you could feel it, but too big to rig. And everybody in that room was wanting things to be called a little earlier, I think, than they were. They felt like things were happening very slowly from the networks calling it, because they would have waves of emotions in the room and people would get so excited. And then, like you guys watching it in all the returns, and then you would have an hour before anything else interesting would happen. And so it finally was, after 2 a.m., Donald Trump came out and took the stage. And you couldn't believe just the amount of energy that these people have had. And they had been there. They opened the doors at 4 p.m. that night. So people had been there through the long haul. And finally, when he took the stage, it felt like, it was 9 or 10 p.m. in that room.
He has more energy than anybody I have ever met, especially for his age, but just anyone. I mean, I'm beat, you're beat.
Yes.
I know Stu is, Liz, I'm assuming you're beat from the last 24 hours.
Fresh as a daisy, Glenn.
He has been on this schedule for months, just months. And he is just still going strong. Let's go over some of the things that we have. Which one of the 5 issues mattered most on how you decided to vote? Here's what they said. Foreign policy, 4%. Abortion, 14%. Economy, 31%. Immigration, 11%. And state of democracy, 35%. That was interpreted last night because I remember we talked about that. And I said, well, wait, I'm concerned about the democracy. And I think that was interpreted by many people as, our democracy dies in darkness, all the stuff from the left. But for that to be that was the first answer for the people who voted. That was a mutual fear from both sides. Had to have been.
Yeah, I actually thought, I was thinking about this after we were talking about it last night on the broadcast, because we were like, oh, well, they define democracy differently than we define democracy. And I was kind of, as a thought experiment, thinking, okay, well, what is their definition of democracy? What do they mean? Because they're not vague about it. And I think what they mean when they say democracy is they mean our institutions. And not institutions like marriage, not institutions, not even religious institutions. I mean institutions like the public school system, the universities, the public health apparatus, a lot of the agencies within the federal government, these big apparatuses or institutions that actually indoctrinate people and control people. That's what they mean when they say they fear for democracy. They fear that these institutions won't be controlling people and that people will be thinking for themselves. I have one comment about Trump's speech from last night, too. When he came onto that stage, it reminded me of when he was on Joe Rogan and he was talking about the first day that he was elected president. And he said, I went into the Lincoln bedroom and he's like, it was surreal. It was like, oh my goodness, I'm part of history. And it dwarfed Donald Trump, the man, compared to history for a moment. And I loved that he shared that with Joe Rogan. But I saw that, Glenn, on his face last night when he went out onto that stage and he talked about being the 47th president of the United States. I thought, oh my goodness, he's having a surreal moment where the historical enormity of what he is experiencing is bigger than he is as a man. And I mean, I was moved.
Yeah, I think he has changed. I talked to Laura Trump today about it. He changed after the assassination, but you can't go through what he has gone through in the last 8 years, but even in the last year, and not understand that this is changing the course of the world. His next 4 years, and hopefully we have 8 or 12 with J.D. Vance to follow him. This is the last great hope of the Western world. If he can stop things like the Paris Accords and what that actually means with the banking and everything else, he has the opportunity to save the entire West and save freedom. He is now the only one in a leadership role like that. And you can't be in his position, I think, and not feel that way. Stu?
Yeah, I think that's true. And, it's an important thing. We've now kind of had a change, and it's sending a massive message, not only to the American people, but the world. And to back up a little bit on your point on democracy being the top thing that people voted on, this is something that I think is a real message when you go to baseline politics of a moment. You don't run a campaign based on some esoteric concept like democracy when it's, you're trying to make it a thing. When you're running a campaign, you're supposed to go to the people and meet the people where they are. They're the ones paying these extra prices on their interest rates and food and all of the things they've been struggling with all this time. They're dealing with crime. They're dealing with people coming across the border. Those are things that really hit people. Democracy is this, what they tried to make that into, and this ties into, Trump as Hitler. All of this fired up their base. All of this got lots of views on MSNBC.com. All of this was, hyped up their social media feeds. But that's not why people were voting. People all realized democracy was real. They were literally going to the polls to talk about it and to vote based on it. They were using the elements of our democracy inside of our constitutional republic in that way. So it's just such a fascinating thing. And I think it's something, hopefully, the Democrats don't learn after this. This is hopefully a lesson they don't get. You don't win when you run on something like that.
But I don't understand, because it is connected. That is the number one response from the people who voted. Which one of these 5 issues mattered most on deciding how you vote? State of democracy was 35. Economy, shockingly, was 31. I think that is both sides saying our country is at the end. Whether you believe it's because of Trump or because of, the WEF and socialism, it doesn't matter. There is a consensus in America that our country, our republic, or as they say, our democracy, is on the ropes. I find that fascinating, that many people have woken up and feel it. that over the economy, that's the number one thing. Jill?
Yeah, and if I had more than 3 hours of sleep, I would remember who said this. So I can't credit the person, unfortunately. But they said that if Trump won, the number of people on the left that would go in and actually have mental health issues because Donald Trump won. And that's what we're going to be seeing now. They are going to be unhinged because this is still what the MSNBCs of the world are going to be feeding them, where, you can't just take this as unity and he's fine and everything will be okay, you guys. No, they are going to be feeding the terrible rhetoric. We heard in that opening montage where Elon Musk, he's that pusher of misinformation. How dare he go out and spend $44 billion so that people can actually say what they want to say. But in this world, they have to have all of the control over the narrative, and that is the thing that we will continue to see beyond this election from the left.
Unfortunately, I find that true, and I know that there's a progressive pact that just sent out a note to progressives that said tonight, gather together with family and friends to grieve. Okay, well, maybe that's something that, we would have been bummed, come together. But the message should be, from both sides now, come together. That's what it used to be. Come together, not to grieve, but to build America again. I don't know when we're going to get into this essay that Brian Stelter wrote a little later on in the program, but they still have, they are not going to let go of we're the fascist, we're the Nazis, everything else. No, we believe in something different than you do. We believe in the founding documents, the way they were written. Until the media does some self-examination, I don't know if we're going to be able to heal, even though, here's what Trump said last night. Cut one, please.
Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
It's funny. Usually he uses a lot of hyperbole. I think he's exactly right. They had obstacles we never thought we'd ever be able to overcome. All right, we're going to come back with the panel and so much more here in just a second. First, let me tell you about preborn. Next block, I think we're talking about abortion and the things that have happened. While that was only 14% of the reason why people went out and voted, some things happened yesterday due to foreign money and foreign influence in our local and state elections that have made abortion even more barbaric in some states, especially Missouri. It's ugly what they passed, but 64 million lives are already gone from abortion. Now with the abortion pill, it just gets worse. We're not going to be able to regulate our way out of this. We have to change the hearts and minds of people. We have to show them that we are about compassion and mercy for those who are having an abortion or think that that's the only thing that they can do. A woman considering an abortion, when she sees an ultrasound, she is twice as likely to choose life for that baby. One ultrasound is $28. 5 ultrasounds are $140. I don't know what kind of money you have, but praise God for this. He gave us mercy instead of what we deserved last night. If you've really had a good year, maybe $5,000 donation, it would help rescue 200 babies. It covers the entire network for an entire day. So dial pound 250 now, whether it's $28, whether it's $1, whatever you can do, dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. Pound 250, keyword baby, preborn.com/Glenn. Well, let me show you where we officially stand. The presidential numbers, let's go with the electoral votes. Trump at 295, Harris at 226. However, there is, we have heard that they're getting ready to call possibly Arizona, but so far nobody has officially called that, so we're going to leave this where it is. When it comes to the popular vote, Trump has 72.1 million votes. Harris has 67.3 million votes. The good news is we walk away from this election and we have confidence in the election. Both sides seem to have confidence in the elections. I want to go to Kamala yesterday, or I'm sorry, I'm so screwed up in my days. Earlier today, Kamala came out and conceded, and here's a bit of her speech. Let's start with cut 3, please.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah. I know what that means. In Great Britain, good afternoon means something entirely different than it does here in America. So I think maybe she was speaking maybe using a British accent on that one. Here she is being very, very gracious. Cut 4.
Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Okay, I don't think that they. I mean, let's give them bonus points, for doing that and everything else. But Stu, you're looking at the numbers. They had nothing else they could do. Am I wrong on that?
No, I mean, there's nothing for them to do. You're talking about legal challenges? I mean, no. I mean,
yeah, there's no other challenges.
No, I mean, they could fight over a couple of states that are close if they really wanted to, but they'd have to overturn multiple states, and there's just no path. Even if they thought they had an argument, which they don't. You mentioned the electoral votes. It was 226 for Kamala Harris. If you remember, Glenn, for months we've been talking about this as a baseline election that starts at 226 to 219. Kamala with 226, Trump with 219, and then those 7 swing states in the middle. And those 7 swing states are all going to go to Donald Trump. As you point out, Nevada and Arizona have not yet been called. That's another 17 electoral votes, which would bring him eventually to 312, which is where this thing's going to land. Now, look, those weren't blowout states. Those are close states. Many of them are within a point or two. You had 7 states that were close. They were shown to be close in the polls, and that's how they ended up. But he was able to win, and you watch that speech, and I'm just filled with this idea that no one in history would have deserved this presidency less than her. If she had won, it would have been one of the strangest things of all time. A person who received absolutely no votes on the way to this, and you think about what Trump went through to get there. It's hard to imagine somebody who didn't deserve it more. You might think of him and might not like some of his policies, you might not like some of his actions, but what the guy fought through, including a bullet to his head, it's one of the strangest and most amazing comeback stories you're ever going to imagine. And it would make a great movie someday. Unfortunately, Hollywood will never make it.
Well, if they do, it'll be completely distorted. He'll be Hitler in the end.
Yeah.
That's actually an interesting point from her speech, though. Kamala Harris told everyone, as if she were their counselor, everything's going to be okay. And I thought to myself, well, last week you were telling us that Trump was Hitler and that all conservatives are Nazis. So there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance there. If Trump is Hitler, then everyone is not going to be okay, which means you must be admitting that you were lying and you don't actually believe that Trump is Hitler.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because it is really odd that they spend so much time convincing people and the media as well that he was literally Hitler. He was going to round people like her up and shoot her, that they would build camps and round others up, that they would destroy the media and put them out of business, which I think they might, but not through legal measures. But how do you come back together with that? I mean, in my speech, if it was the opposite and I was Donald Trump and you lost, you'd say, look, I believe everything that I said. We are a nation deeply troubled. However, the nation has selected a route, and while I won't support things that I think will destroy our foundation and destroy our families, it is my duty to support the president, because he is the whole president of the whole United States, whenever and however I can. I didn't get the feeling that she was doing anything other than posturing on, look, we're better than them because we're going to concede.
Well, I think it's funny that she's up there at the podium saying, oh, we will have a peaceful transfer of power. Because one of the things I thought about last night was, one, how much power did she have in the Biden administration anyway? And two, when she woke up this morning, any of that power that she seemingly might have had was gone out the window. So the words, again, on the left, They're just her rhetoric that she's just standing up there trying to say. And we know that Jill Biden was out there voting in red yesterday. I mean, look at the message that they are sending doing that. But to your earlier point of the Electoral College versus the popular vote, we don't have to worry about any of the shenanigans then, because we won the popular vote. So we don't have to listen to them until January, say, oh, but the Electoral College, it's terrible, it's outdated, we need to get rid of it because this is how terrible things happen in the country. No, we can put all of that aside, but our national reporter, Julio Rosas, was with me there at Trump headquarters last night, and he's like, you know what? I don't know if we're going to be seeing riots, but if we do, this is the anticipation that something like this, she has to go out there and say and calm all of the waters before anything escalates, because he's like, am I going to be jumping on a flight in the next week, 2 weeks? What's the time frame here for riot season? I don't know.
Right. And we'll have to see what happens with Raskin as well. He has been very, very clear. They're going to challenge it every way. They're going to use the Constitution to do it. Civil War amendments, claim that he was an insurrectionist, et cetera, et cetera. Are they going to do that? I know this. They're not going to give up their fight. And I would say the same thing if it was reversed. We wouldn't either. We're not going to give up the fight. We just tend to try. Not all of us do it, but we try to fight fair and to fight legally and constitutionally. Their side fights quite dirty, so we'll see what the next few weeks brings. There's two other clips I want to play here. One is how she closed her speech today, her concession speech. Listen to cut 7.
And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars.
What is she talking?
I feel like this is Stu's V thoughts coming out of that somewhere.
I do appreciate the sentiment there. That is nice. There was also a strange or very different, unexpected sentiment for, I think, many at the end of the victory party last night. Watch this, what happened at Trump headquarters. Cut 8. Back with more in just a second. Give praise and thanks for to the people that it really deserve our praise and thanks, and that is the Lord in heaven. Let me tell you about Relief Factor. If you are somebody that is living with aches and pains in your life every day, let me ask you, What is your response to it? Do you do your best to ignore it, or do you maybe take something that only masks it and then spend the rest of the time pretending that it's not there? If you do, I bet you know by now that it is no way to live your life. It just doesn't work. What you need is something that does work, and I know. Would you try this? Try Relief Factor, 100% daily, 100% drug-free daily supplement. It doesn't mask your pain. It actually helps your body eliminate it for good. It is a unique formula that helps your body fight the inflammation. Try their 3-week quick start. It's only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Try it and see how it can help you turn back the clock on pain. Visit relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. That's 800, the number 4, relief. So, Jill, did you witness that moment last night?
I am so sad because I'm like, I was there last night. I don't know which hallway they were singing in, but that was the first thing that I saw, the absolute first thing that I saw when I woke up this morning. And it did not surprise me at all, Glenn, because in the room last night, again, everybody was cautiously optimistic. They wanted to win. The other overwhelming theme of the night was people kept saying, God isn't done with America. You could feel the spirit in the room of everybody gathering together.
Yeah.
And just, it was bigger than the room itself sometimes when people, I mean, they were hugging, they were crying. It was just one of those things where you could just feel it wasn't just an election that we won. It's more than that. And that was definitely in the room last night.
And Liz, you and I were talking about it yesterday before we went on. You were, fighting a bit the optimism because you were, wisely cautious. But we both felt really different. I mean, it was hard. Allie said to me last night, she tried to be more contained and not so optimistic because she was afraid she was setting herself up for a big fall. But it just did seem yesterday that God's not done with the nation yet.
Yeah, I think I said this to you before we went on air yesterday, but I'm not someone that usually struggles with sleep. I'm not someone who has insomnia typically. Yeah. But the night before the election, I could not sleep a wink. I didn't even feel the typical symptoms of nerves or any anticipation. I just couldn't sleep. And I spent the night wide awake praying for God to have mercy on our nation. And my experience is not an isolated experience. I think for the first time in my lifetime, the first time I can remember in American history, the majority of people who voted for Trump understood that this was not just left versus right, that this is a spiritual battle that we are engaging in, and politics are but the medium, and that good prevailed. Mm-hmm. And it's humbling. It's wonderful. I mean, that video that you showed before, that was the first moment that I think it really hit me. Like, even we had seen the results. It was kind of just bouncing off. I couldn't process it. I saw that video. I just started crying. I was like, oh my goodness, praise the Lord is right.
Yeah. Let me go to a darker side on the abortion measures that passed and failed. In Arizona, voters passed a measure to amend the state constitution, enshrining the right to abortion until fetal viability. Voters in Colorado approved an initiative to establish a right to abortion in the state constitution and allow the procedure to be covered, a covered service on health insurance plans with a public funding component. That's Colorado. Florida, Amendment 4 failed, and that is really because of the governor, Ron DeSantis. Maryland, voters approved a constitutional amendment confirming an individual's right to reproductive freedom, including the ability to make and effectuate decisions to prevent, continue, or end one's own pregnancy. Missouri, this one seems a little bloodthirsty. They approved a measure to amend the state's constitution to enshrine the right of abortion until fetal viability, to include the exceptions after viability to protect the life or physical or mental health of the pregnant person. That one seems just like the worst one out there. Montana passed the right to abortion initiative to create a state constitutional right to make and carry out decisions in one's own pregnancy, including the right to abortion. Nebraska, the voters faced a unique situation. Only state to have two abortion measures on the ballot, one for, one against. The voters passed the prohibit abortions after the first trimester amendment to amend the Constitution to ban abortions in the second and third trimesters. I think this is great. Except in medical emergencies or when the pregnancy is a result of rape or incest. The other measure, the Right to Abortion Initiative, would have amended the state constitution to recognize a right to abortion up to fetal viability. Nevada also passed it. New York passed an amendment. South Dakota rejected a citizen-initiated measure that would have amended the Constitution to guarantee the right to abortion. So while God saved us and showed us some mercy, we also went to the polls and made it stronger in our state's constitutions, some of them, to be able to kill your own child.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some work to do on this one. Now, of course, that work will be worth it when you're talking about human lives. But I think a lot of people had this idea that Roe versus Wade, which was a 50-year effort to try to overturn it, was the end of this battle. And it isn't. It was just the opportunity to fight the battle. Before that, we had absolutely no chance to do anything. And so now we're in a position where we do have a lot of work to do. And the left has done, I think, terrible things, misleading women as to what is going on here. I mean, I came across a story today. Someone had posted clips from a forum where women gather, and it was called want to conceive or something. It was people who want to have children, and they were trying to conceive, and they were all having this session of horror as they discussed how they were not going to be able to access any health care, how IVF was all going to go away, and all of these things that don't seem to be at all true. And you go back to thinking about the cases that the left kind of closed with on this issue, telling women that the abortion pill is as safe as ibuprofen, and then additionally telling women that if they go to the hospital for treatment, they will be arrested. These women are terrified by what is coming here. They think they're actually walking into the Handmaid's Tale, and it's just costing women's lives. So the left has done this. They've gone as dark as they can possibly go. And you're right, Glenn. I think we're going to need the Lord's guidance here to navigate these waters, because they're not going to be easy, but they are worth navigating.
Well, now that Stu has mansplained it to ladies,
you came to me on the abortion question. I could have talked polls all day.
Any comment from either of you two ladies?
Yeah, when I listen to Stu here talk right now, and it's one of those things where, yes, they have gone through and told an entire generation of women, this is your number one priority. When I was on my flight to Florida yesterday, I had MSNBC and CNN. Those were really the only options to be flipping through on the TV screen there in the plane. And it was almost eerie, because you knew what the reporters in each situation were trying to do when they picked out the 20-something female to go interview and just say, hey, do you want to talk to us? Great. What's your number one issue? Who are you voting for today? And it was Kamala Harris and abortion. And each time, every time that they would talk to one of these 20-somethings, but I don't really want to get into the rest of this because I don't have a lot of strong opinions on anything else, but I'm definitely going to vote for Kamala because I want to be able to have an abortion. That was I can't tell you. I saw it probably 5 different times flipping between the 2 channels early in the afternoon there on Tuesday, and it makes you wonder, because we've seen comments just online where people are like, oh, I want to make sure that my kids can grow up and they live in a world where this is an option. And it's like, you're talking about your child. How does this not relate in your head that you want to give them the opportunity to grow and have a family for themselves? It's going to take so much work to push back. And like we were saying, Roe versus Wade, that was a 50-year battle. It might take another 50 years to straighten out the mentality where we actually value life.
Yeah, and I have a couple of hopeful things to say. I want to pivot off of something that Jill said, and this idea, this a lot of celebrities in the lead up the last couple days before Election Day endorsed Kamala Harris. There was J-Lo, there was Reese Witherspoon, there was Jennifer Aniston, and in the common thread in all of these endorsements where they said that they were voting for their daughter, for my daughter, they said. And what they meant is that they were voting to legalize abortion without restriction until the moment of birth for any reason. And I think conservatives need to start speaking in a more based manner about this. And when I say based, I mean based in reality. They need to understand and communicate, provide a counter narrative that when you are saying that you are voting for my daughter when it comes to abortion, what you are actually saying is that you are voting to allow multiple men to use your daughter as an object for promiscuous sex, to impregnate her without any intention of commitment or love, and then to give her the ability, even the encouragement, the incentive to kill your sweet grandbaby so that other men can continue to abuse your daughter. And I know it sounds gruesome to say, but that's actually what they're voting for. And I think if conservatives start communicating that clearly, then they would be more successful. One exit poll that I want to bring up, too, this was a CNN exit poll that showed that among Trump voters who want abortion to be illegal in most cases, support for that position in 2020 was 72%, but it increased to 91% in 2024. And then those Trump voters who want abortion to be illegal in all cases increased from 81% in 2020 to 87% in 2024. That's very hopeful to me, because that means that abortion or being pro-life is not a losing issue in and of itself at the ballot box. It's how these initiatives are run.
Yes, and I think Ron DeSantis showed that if you're not the governor of Missouri, who did absolutely nothing. You don't have to fight a horror show battle. You don't have to spend all kinds of money, and you certainly don't have to hide from it. If you stand and you actually tell the truth about what's going on, you can change the hearts and minds of your own state. Ron DeSantis, we spoke about this a lot last night on the broadcast. He deserves a great deal of kudos for what he did on crushing it in Florida. All right, when we come back, I want to talk to you about what's next. What's next with the Trump legal case? Are they going to try to send him to jail? Is Jamie Raskin going to try to pull the rug from underneath him using a constitutional amendment? And what about the media? All that coming up next. First, let me tell you about Patriot Mobile. For 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They're a proud supporter of this show, and we are proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you the ability to access all three major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without all the funding garbage that it comes from the other big three mobile phone services. You're not going to be funding abortions. Like if you're a customer of Verizon, your money's going to Planned Parenthood. Did you know that they take some of their profits and give it to Planned Parenthood? That makes you kind of an accomplice in that, doesn't it? Get away from it. Go to patriotmobile.com/Beck or call 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT. It's Patriot Mobile. Get a free month when you use the offer code Beck. And don't get fooled by, the providers that are pretending to share your values or having the same coverage. Now is the time we really need to come together and stand with one another. Stand with Patriot Mobile. A free month of service when you switch right now. patriotmobile.com/Beck. right, so in our final segment, let's talk about what's coming. It looks like we have avoided burning down of cities, at least so far. It looks like everybody is behaving themselves. Congratulations on that on all sides. And is it true? How many people believe that they are going to come and try to put him in jail, which they have been threatening to do? But there's some new news on this today. Who wants to take that?
Yeah, according to an ABC report, Jack Smith, the special counsel, is in talks with the Department of Justice on how to drop the prosecutions against Donald Trump. He cited a longstanding precedent that says that sitting presidents aren't prosecuted for crimes. But in my opinion, that's just a fluffy way of saying, yeah, we took our shot and it didn't work.
Yeah,
so we gotta try to save face here.
Right. And isn't that what they said? They blamed Donald Trump. They said that he won't be prosecuted because he'll have just, an open lane to do whatever he wants. Well, no, you're giving him that lane. If you really believed this was a crime, why wouldn't you pursue that now?
This is a little bit too like the director of The Joker saying, we're not going to make another sequel. Yeah, we know, buddy. We know there's not another one coming here. I mean, this was all going to be...
They shouldn't have made the last one.
Exactly. They're not going. This was all going to go away anyway. As soon as Trump gets into office, he was going to make the first thing he was going to do was dissolve every one of these efforts. So, a lot of this is similar to what the attitude I think you're getting from the left today. They've realized they don't have a way to challenge this election, so they've decided to take the next best thing, which is let's try to grab the high road. Remember, they were the ones challenging. They were the ones out in the streets. Let's grab the high road.
Right.
I mean, you know how long that lasts, Glenn. I think it's smart. I think, there is, if you have a strategy, it's probably a good one. But typically what seems to happen with the activists that live beneath the surface of the Democratic Party and the left movement, they don't have all that much patience for that type of activity. And remember, the big pushback for Trump was, remember the Women's March in 2017? They waited a few weeks. So don't get too excited. We'll see what happens around the corner.
Correct. Let me play, let's see here. It is cut, shoot. Here it is, cut 12 on talking about what's coming next. Cut 12, listen to RFK.
You say clearing out the corruption in your terms. Would that mean clearing out the top-level federal service workers that are currently at the FDA and the CDC?
In some categories, I would say.
What does that look like? Yeah,
in some categories of workers, there are entire departments, like the nutrition departments at FDA, that have to go. That are not doing their job. They're not protecting our kids. Why do we have Fruit Loops in this country that have 18 or 19 ingredients, and you go to Canada and it's got 2 or 3?
Fruit Loops have 3 ingredients in Canada. Is that a true story? That can't possibly be
What
accurate.
would those ingredients be?
I know,
No,
sugar, and sugar. Wait.
No, there are 3 ingredients. I did an episode on this. I don't remember what they were, Stu. But I did an episode on this. There are several ingredients that are in American foods that are banned in Canada, banned in Europe. And for some reason, we just add them here. But our food is has many more chemicals in it than they have in the rest of the world, they allow in the rest of the world.
Isn't that true of McDonald's, too?
Yes.
That there are chemicals in McDonald's in the United States that don't exist in McDonald's in Europe and in Asia?
Yeah.
You start screwing with my McDonald's, I'm going to vote for Kamala.
You don't want the beef tallow fries back?
I want more ingredients, more chemicals put into all of our foods. No, it's funny that, I don't think Fruit Loops, my guess is no matter how many ingredients you put in them, they're not going to be healthy. That's not but it's going to be interesting to see how Trump manages all this, because he's brought in a lot of people with much divergent views. They helped. That coalition is really an exciting one, but also going to be an interesting, way. He's going to have to be a conductor over a very interesting orchestra. A lot of, Tulsi Gabbard has much different views than Donald Trump does on a lot of different issues. But if he's able to kind of pick those ones that he agrees with and keep them in their very narrow lanes, he mentioned this on the Joe Rogan interview with RFK Jr. I don't want him anywhere near the environment. If he's able to actually stick to that stuff and manage it, it's there's obviously a larger coalition that can be built.
Yeah, I woke up and the first thing that I posted on X this morning was, Mr. President, tear down this insert 3-letter agency. I don't care which
Right,
letter,
just pick
3-letter
one.
agency. You can pick your favorite at home. It's a play-along game. But this is the thing that gets me the most fired up, is this is the best chance that we have ever had to reduce the size of the federal government. If we can't do it now, I don't know when it's going to happen, but this is the group. This is, again, everybody looks at this and says, okay, this is the time. And I mean, I don't care how much sleep I have or have not had. This will get me fired up, and we can get through at least until January on no sleep with all this, knowing that that's a possibility.
Abolish the administrative state. That'll keep us going.
Amen. Amen. The media, are they going to do any kind of self-reflection? Are they humble enough to see the part, the role that they have played in this? There's a Brian Stelter CNN column here. Donald Trump's return to power is a hinge point for the American media in ways big, small, and to be determined. His defeat of Kamala Harris is raising questions about the media's credibility, influence, and audience. Some of the questions may not be answerable for years. But journalists are asking each other, what does this red wave election say about the information environment in the United States? The hours after Trump won the re-election on Tuesday, some of his loyalists asserted that his victory is a complete repudiation of the news media. For some time on Wednesday morning, the Federalist lead headline was not about Trump. It was about the corporate media industrial complex being 2024's biggest loser. This is exactly the way I see this. But what does it say about the information environment in the United States? No. It's not the information environment. It is the those who are holier than thou, sitting with their degrees from Columbia Journalism School, that just think they know better than everyone else and have been lying to us. They have to be smarter than the lies that they're telling. There's no way they actually believe those things. Are they going to be humble enough to turn this around?
I think the only shot of that is if they just realize it's ineffective. And that actually might be bad for the country if they realize that. I don't think that they're going to actually be self-reflective on telling the truth, but I think they might realize that just saying Hitler over and over again is not going to work. They're going to have to change their approach. That could make them dangerous, honestly.
Elon said, you are the media now. That's the biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
It is.
Thank you, Elon.
Guys, thank you. Yeah. Thank you to a lot of people. Elon is one of them. Thank you all with a lack of sleep coming on the program tomorrow. We will see you on the radio to continue the conversation. Good night.